The room is alive. It's 1922. A small Midwestern town. Saturday night. The dance hall smells of perfume, cigarette smoke, and floor polish worn thin by spinning shoes. A trumpet cuts through the air, bright, rebellious, impossible to ignore. Laughter rises above the rhythm. Dresses shimmer. Shoes slide across hardwood in confident, unchaperoned freedom. For a few hours, the war feels far away. The sermons feel distant. The rules feel negotiable. A young woman with bobbed hair throws her head back and laughs, too loud, too free. Her hand rests on a man's shoulder, his palm at her waist. They are closer than their parents would approve of. And that's exactly the point. Then the doors open. The music doesn't stop at first, but the room feels it. Two uniformed officers step inside, hats low, faces unreadable. Behind them, a town councilman clutches a folded document like a weapon. The trumpet falters. The drummer slows. Someone near the entrance whispers, "It's happening." The ordinance is read aloud over the stunned silence. Public dancing is hereby prohibited. Close physical contact between unmarried men and women is deemed immoral conduct. The hall must close immediately. A nervous laugh escapes from somewhere in the back. It dies quickly. The young woman lowers her hand. The man steps away as if she has burned him. Lights are turned fully on. No more shadows, no more music. In a single moment, joy becomes suspicion. And in this town, dancing has just become a crime. The ordinance didn't begin in the dance hall. It began in whispers, in sermons delivered with tightening fists, in newspaper editorials warning that modern youth were slipping beyond parental control. After World War I, the country felt unsteady. Millions had died overseas. The influenza pandemic had stolen more at home. Prohibition had outlawed alcohol, but speakeasies multiplied in shadow. Women had gained the right to vote. Skirts were shorter. Hair was cut. Jazz spilled out of radios and phonographs into quiet neighborhoods that had once trusted silence. Change was everywhere. And for many, change felt like decay. The church pews filled with worried parents. Pastors spoke of moral erosion, of temptation disguised as entertainment, of young women swaying to rhythms that were called primitive, foreign, dangerous. Dancing was framed not as recreation, but as invitation. Invitation to lust. Invitation to alcohol. Invitation to interracial contact. Invitation to disobedience. And panic, once given a symbol, grows quickly. Local newspapers printed headlines linking dance halls to petty crime, even when evidence was thin. Council meetings filled with testimonials from citizens who had never stepped inside the halls, but were certain corruption lived there. No one could clearly define what was wrong with the dancing, but everyone could feel it. Young people were choosing their own partners, choosing their own music, choosing their own time And choice is unsettling in communities built on obedience. Soon, it wasn't about jazz. It wasn't about flappers. It wasn't even about morality. It was about control slipping, slowly, visibly, from the hands of those who had always held it. And control, when threatened, does not retreat quietly. It tightens, it legislates, it punishes. In this town, and dozens like it, the dance floor had become a battlefield, not of bodies, but of authority. Reverend Amos Whitaker did not hate music. He told himself that often. From his pulpit, he spoke calmly, deliberately. He was not a fire and brimstone man. He was measured, thoughtful, a shepherd, protecting his flock from what he called moral drift. But when he heard jazz drifting down Main Street at night, something tightened in his jaw. It wasn't just the rhythm. It was where the rhythm came from. Jazz was new to this town. It had traveled north from black communities in New Orleans, Chicago, Harlem, carried by records, traveling musicians, radio waves that ignored county lines. The newspapers called it primitive. The Reverend called it untamed. But what he felt was harder to name. Uncontainable. Clara Bell did not think about any of that when she stepped onto the dance floor. She thought about the way the trumpet made her pulse quicken, the way the world felt larger under colored lights, the way she could choose who held her hand. The band that played Saturday nights included a young black pianist from 2 towns over. He rarely spoke to anyone outside the hall. But when he played, the room moved. That movement unsettled men like Whitaker, because dancing blurred lines. White girls moved to black music. White boys mimicked rhythms they did not understand. Bodies moved in ways their parents never had. And proximity, physical, cultural, is dangerous in a segregated world. No ordinance mentioned race. The town council avoided that language carefully. But Reverend Whitaker understood what was slipping. If music could cross boundaries, if young people could admire culture, not their own, if dance halls became places where the old rules did not apply, then hierarchy weakened. And hierarchy was the spine of order. At the next council meeting, Whitaker stood beside Councilman Robert Hale, a quiet, pragmatic man who feared chaos more than sin. "We are not banning joy," Whitaker insisted. "We are protecting decency." But Clara heard something different when the ordinance passed. She heard fear. Not of dancing, not of impropriety, but of change. Because beneath every sermon and every vote was an unspoken truth. The panic was never just about movement. It was about who was allowed to influence whom. And once influence begins to flow freely, control becomes very hard to reclaim. The second raid is louder than the first. By then, everyone knows the ordinance is real. The band has already been fined once, the hall owner warned. Couples cited publicly in the newspaper under the heading, "Indecent Public Conduct." But Saturday night still comes, and Clara still goes. She tells herself she's not rebelling, She's just dancing. The hall is fuller than usual, not because people feel safe, but because they feel watched. There is electricity in the air that has nothing to do with music. Every laugh is slightly sharper, every spin slightly more deliberate. The pianist, the young black musician from 2 towns over, plays harder than before, not louder, harder. His hands strike the keys like punctuation. Then the doors slam open. 6 officers this time. The trumpet stops instantly. Music off! Everyone separate! There's a pause, just a half second. But it's enough. Enough for defiance to flicker. Clara doesn't step back immediately. Neither does the man holding her. An officer grabs his collar and yanks him away. The room erupts. Not violently, but audibly. Gasps, shouts. Someone curses. A chair scrapes sharply across the floor. Councilman Hale stands near the entrance, face pale but rigid. He avoids eye contact with the dancers. He did not expect this many of them. Names are taken, hands are pushed apart. The pianist is ordered to step away from the instrument. When he hesitates, just slightly, 2 officers move toward him at once. The message is clear. This isn't about dancing anymore. It's about obedience. Outside, a crowd gathers faster than anyone anticipated. Some watch in silence, some murmur approval, some look uneasy. Reverend Whitaker arrives not to witness chaos, but to ensure order. He stands at the edge of the crowd, hat low, posture straight. He sees Clara being led outside, her chin lifted in quiet fury. Their eyes meet for a moment. He expects shame. He sees something else. Resolve. The next morning, the paper runs a full column. Dance hall disorder, youth resist decency measures. Clara's name appears in print. So does the pianist's. So do 3 others. Parents argue at breakfast tables. Employers reconsider reputations. Church attendance spikes again. And that night, something changes. Whispers move faster than patrol routes. A warehouse on the edge of town. Windows boarded. Entry through the back only. Password at the door. No flyers. No lights visible from outside. Clara goes. She expects 30 people. There are nearly 100, packed shoulder to shoulder, sweating, nervous, alive. Someone has smuggled in a phonograph. When the needle drops, the room doesn't cheer. It exhales. They dance carefully at first, then boldly. Not because it's safe, but because it's forbidden. And forbidden things carry heat. Reverend Whitaker hears about it 2 days later. An underground dance, unsanctioned, unlicensed, unrepentant. He feels something new, not moral outrage, fear. Because enforcement has not stopped the movement, it has multiplied it. The dance floor was once visible. Now it's hidden. And hidden movements are harder to control. The ordinance was meant to restore order. Instead, it has created rebellion. And rebellion has rhythm. By spring, the arrests are no longer shocking. They are expected. What shocks the town instead is how many continue dancing anyway. The warehouse gatherings grow larger, patrols increase, fines multiply. The newspaper runs editorials twice a week now, some praising moral courage, others quietly questioning whether the crackdown has gone too far. The fracture is no longer generational alone. It is household by household. At Clara's dinner table, her father folds the newspaper slowly. "You're humiliating us," he says without looking at her. "I'm dancing," she replies. That's not what this is anymore. And he's right, it isn't. At church, Reverend Whitaker feels the shift in the pews. The older members nod harder during sermons about obedience. But the younger ones, the ones who used to avoid eye contact, now meet his gaze directly. There is something defiant in it, not hatred. Conviction. Meanwhile, Councilman Hale begins receiving letters. Some threaten to vote him out. Some accuse him of cowardice. Some ask why the ordinance seems to target certain musicians more than others. He notices patterns he hadn't allowed himself to see before. Most citations issued at the warehouse involve the same pianist, the same group of young women, the same cluster of boys who talk about Chicago and Harlem like promised lands. He tells himself enforcement must be consistent. But consistency is becoming impossible. A town hall meeting is called. The largest crowd in memory fills the chamber. On one side, church elders, business owners, parents who believe discipline preserves stability. On the other, young men with loosened ties, young women with short hair and steady eyes, a handful of veterans who survived war only to be told they cannot dance at home. Clara stands when her turn comes. Her voice trembles at first. "We're not criminals," she says. "We're not destroying this town. We're just living in it." Murmurs ripple. A shopkeeper rises next. "My daughter was arrested for standing too close to her fiancé. Is that morality or humiliation?" Then Reverend Whitaker stands. The room quiets instantly. He speaks slowly, carefully. "This is not about punishment," he says. "It is about protection. We have seen what unrestrained behavior becomes in larger cities. We are choosing a different path." A young veteran interrupts from the back. "We fought for freedom. Is this it?" The word hangs heavy. Freedom. For a moment, Whitaker hesitates, because the panic that once felt clear now feels messy. The ordinance was supposed to draw a line. Instead, it has drawn battle lines. Businesses near the old dance hall report fewer customers. Young men are leaving for nearby cities where music still plays openly. Parents are fighting with children who now see authority not as guidance, but as restriction. And beneath it all, something more dangerous is happening. The ordinance has given the youth a shared identity. Before, they were scattered, individuals sneaking joy. Now they are a group, united not just by music, but by opposition. The meeting ends without resolution. Voices raised, No vote taken. Outside, the crowd spills into the street. No one speaks for a moment. Then, from somewhere near the edge of the square, someone begins tapping a rhythm on a metal trash lid. Soft, defiant. Others join, clapping, stomping. It's not polished, it's not organized, but it spreads, and as the sound grows, Reverend Whitaker realizes something chilling. He has not suppressed the movement. He has given it a heartbeat. And heartbeats, once synchronized, are very hard to silence. But something changes. At first it's small. An officer arrives late to a complaint about illegal dancing in a private home. He knocks half-heartedly, leaves without issuing a citation. A fine goes unpaid. No follow-up. A patrol car drives past the warehouse and does not stop. Enforcement becomes uneven, and uneven enforcement reveals something dangerous. The law is losing conviction. Reverend Whitaker notices it first in church attendance. Yes, the pews are still full, but the eyes are different. The young sit quietly now, not rebellious, not loud, just detached. The fire has gone somewhere else, and fire is easier to manage than silence. He hears that 3 boys have left for Chicago, that Clara's friend Ruth has taken a train to St. Louis, where dance halls glow openly and no one reads ordinances aloud before midnight. Main Street feels thinner. The hardware store closes an hour earlier than it used to. The dry goods shop reports fewer Saturday purchases. The dance hall, once loud and controversial, now sits boarded and still, not as a victory, but as a vacancy. Control has not restored order. It has drained vitality. At the next council meeting, attendance is sparse. The outrage is gone. So is the urgency. Councilman Hale clears his throat and suggests reviewing enforcement budgets. No one argues. The ordinance remains on the books, but it feels tired. Whitaker walks home that night under a quiet sky. In the distance, faint and almost apologetic, he hears music. Not bold, not defiant, just present. He stops. He could follow the sound. He could report it. He could stand at the edge of the room and remind them of decency. Instead, he keeps walking. And for the first time since this began, he asks himself a question he had refused to consider. What exactly were we saving? Years pass, not with confrontation, but with drift. The ordinance is still technically enforceable, but fewer care to enforce it. A new sheriff takes office and prioritizes theft over dancing. A neighboring town lifts its restrictions and sees no collapse of morality. Travel increases. Radios become common. Music arrives without permission. Clara is older now. She still dances, not underground, not defiantly, just normally. The war on dancing did not end with a vote. It ended with irrelevance. The town did not declare defeat. It simply grew tired of fighting rhythm. Reverend Whitaker, grayer at the temples, sits on his porch one summer evening. Across town, faint music drifts through open windows. He does not rise. He does not call anyone. He listens. And what he hears is not corruption, not chaos, just youth. And he understands, perhaps too late, that the ordinance did not protect innocence. It protected fear, fear of change, fear of losing influence, fear that the world was moving without asking permission. The law had drawn a line. Culture stepped over it, quietly, without needing to shout. And that is how authority sometimes collapses, not through revolution, but through irrelevance.